All right, so hopefully we've all had a chance to look through the 7,000s. It's relatively, as policies go, it's a gentler one. So I think that's what I was going to suggest.
What's that? You want to ask what
Did you
you
want
had
me
to
to-
start out?
We can start off and we can just go through each one. If we have questions on it, we can do comments, we can do that. If not, we'll move on to the next.
Okay,
Do you want me to?
wonderful.
Overall, my overall comment, I was mentioning this to Sandy, is that I don't see a lot of mention about technology infrastructure in the policy. And my concern is for future expenditures, that we find a place for those to land.
So what did you say for technology?
Technology infrastructure,
Oh,
not software, not programming, not one-on-one devices.
do we not have
Just the
something for that in another policy?
Access points, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know that they're all getting done now, but since we're doing our policies now, I just thought, my feeling is that it should be part of the policy as far as facilities are concerned. Because like I was saying to Sandy, that all things that wear down and need replacement, everything else is in the policy.
Right, but not the
So-
one-to-one.
No, I said, not
Right.
one-to-one, not software.
As you bring that up, it makes me question that the bond paid for the one.
The bond included technology language. We're talking about beyond the bond.
But did it say that,
Tech-
I mean,
I'm pretty sure it was-
beyond the building,
Yes, it was clear about tech,
Technology?
yes.
For the laptops? Oh, yeah, it's spelled
Yeah.
out.
it is?
Yeah.
It's spelled
The
out.
technology endowment in general
BH
covers
it is.
everything, so it's
Yeah.
not necessarily.
BH.
So,
Alright.
right, not need,
It's like,
we made sure that when we wrote the language. But it's still, that's gonna run out anyway, so we have to look at
Right.
this beyond, so,
Right.
so my,
Because when we get to that section in the bond, I didn't see it listed that way.
there's
In the policy.
there's parts that talk in the policy about what falls under those particular, 1,000 number. And I just thought that specifically we should add the technology, wireless, wiring and access points.
wanna
Really is
call it
really,
out?
that's what we're talking about.
I mean, it
No,
says.
when we get to it, it's fine.
Right.
It's my overall comment in general about the policy, is that I kind of skipped a beat with that. But let's go through, I don't need to go around the horseshoe. If you have something on an issue, we can bring it up, okay? So we'll start at 7,000.
No, I don't have it.
My only comment on 7,000 itself is number 7, which says name schools and individual buildings. Are we gonna be doing that in concert with the foundation, or should we refer to that either? Some things are named through the foundation.
We do have another section later on, we'll just spell that out, 7310.
I know it's mentioned again.
Yeah, it's a whole section at the end, I think,
What page are you on for that one?
the very first
Page
one.
2.
There is something on that, I remember there is something, Noah. There is a naming thing.
Ends at 7214, my books.
7, yes, well,
What page are you on?
I'm on with the one, you're looking for the one, I did see that, I
It
didn't
says
have a
32.
comment on that one, I had a comment on
32.
6214, but that was not the comment that I had.
Let's stay in order. so.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, I got it. All right. Well, and just to make sure that then it's in concert, that number 7 on the beginning is in concert with this policy, or maybe refers to.
Well,
this policy.
ultimately, the board approves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean.
right.
it's the
I
same
just
with-
don't want us to have anything in writing that trips us up from, giving up control of that.
Well, maybe when it gets. in
I think
the-
that go, as we go beyond names of schools and the village comes in at another section where they specifically
let's
address
just
how
pin
to
it
do
in.
it, so
And
I think that just,
Yeah, I think it is the responsibility part that the board ultimately has to approve.
right,
All right, so if there's nothing else, moving on, 7110.
Just one question. So are we okay with the recommendation to
Yeah.
use the districts?
Yeah,
versus-
because we have the other, the interesting thing, what you really were referring to in that is actually naming the school also, and we're not changing the name of the schools, lest we get hung up in that.
So
What was your question? I'm sorry.
So for the 7,000, are we okay? So
Yeah.
what I'd really like to know is so we have on the left side, the current policy, the right side is the
Proposed.
is the actual post from CSBA.
Mhm.
And at the top there, I would usually write either like use the district, like keep the district, or go with the proposed. So in this case,
I would go
we're
with
suggesting
proposed.
keep the district's current one.
Adopted.
No, I'm.
With the changes that are listed
No,
in
no.
our book.
I'm
No,
proposing,
changes.
I'm suggesting we go with the proposed updated policy from CSBA.
from CSBA.
So
The
typically
one on the
what's,
right,
typically, yeah, this is what's on the right, the
the
developmental
proposal.
workshop is the CSBA.
That's the CSBA, and so we make a recommendation either in like to
Yes.
either use district, which would mean to keep the one on the left, if not, in other ones, we say, yeah, use CSBA, which means keep the one on the right, so.
So your
This is-
recommendation was to use the one on the left?
Yes, and the reason for that is because it's pretty much the same.
Yeah,
The real difference though is that the left kind of spells out the CF, it lines it out a little bit better, in my opinion, but we could remove, basically, the right side is the left minus the,
I didn't see a difference of either way, whatever is easiest, but then I would just ask that you put that it was readopted on 20.
Why would you wanna keep the one on the left?
it just has the CF.
References.
It's
Oh,
the
the
one that was from
references.
310-209, and we're keeping,
Well, you can put,
there's no
you can
change.
update when we readopt.
well, there are changes there because now you're talking about the master
You're not
plan.
on the right, you're not on the right one.
No, if you go line by line, it's verbatim the same word.
It's the
Right,
same- it's the
one
same
calls
thing.
out,
I
one
mean, I
calls
looked at
out
each
the
and
other.
every one of
Part of
these.
what
I thought we were on
CSBA is
7,
doing though is
10, I thought we were on
7,000.
which
They're
is, it's
updating.
cleaning it up.
Oh, I
It's-
thought we were on the
It's getting
first
rid of
one.
the CF,
Right,
but we can also keep
either
that.
way, and in the previous policies that we did, when it was like this, and CSBA had the new version, we adopted the new version, so that
Okay.
then down the road, if we make a change, the new version is what's in the system.
Sure, and so that's what we would just need,
We're always
is-
current.
that's,
wait,
that's. what
So
you
the
would-
recommendation, I would recommend that we do the one on the right, because that's the most
That's
current
what
one
I
from
would recommend.
CSBA.
Okay, so we'll do
And
the one on the right.
There's nothing in here that's of substance, it's changed, it's almost verbatim, except for the cross references.
I mean, yeah, that's,
Okay.
but do we hurt the policy by making it harder for people to cross-reference the other policy, right? By taking that out, people are just gonna have to try to figure it out.
I mean, I guess the question is why CSBA removed the cross references, is there a reason?
I-
CSBA doesn't have them, these are their only red lines, right, or up top, where they're changing, they take out the word govern.
Understood, so the question is why have they removed it? This was a
It may have been because like different districts might have different
cross reference.
cross references.
Right.
They've been, yeah, but you'll notice in some of the policies that we've been talking about, they've just been doing that.
Right,
Many times they come up anyway when you do a search in the
The
in the
cross-reference,
assembly
yeah.
section, the cross references come up anyway, but
So we're gonna take the right-hand page, we're gonna take the new pending one,
from a
right?
consistency standpoint, I would recommend we go with the
Right.
one, the current CSBA, because that's what we did with the last
Okay,
rounds of, we did that, what, the 6,000, the 9,000s and
Yes.
1,000s
and we did the
and the
6,000.
6,000s, and we did them all in the same way.
okay,
And I think the thinking was simply that if we're current, then it will reflect that we reviewed and readopted, and as well, when, in the future, if we need to make a change, we don't have to go back to different versions, it'll be what's current in the system.
makes sense.
So, bottom line, let me clear this up,
We're adopting on the right,
the right,
yes.
which is what I agree.
I would, I know what you're saying is consistent, but for this particular policy, it's easy to have the cross references here on the front. As far as utilizing this for people's research. Is there a way that, but you're adamant about removing the cross references, because I think they should stay.
I'm adamant with going, I'm not
Is there a
adamant,
word
I'm
we can change on
recommending.
this? So
Well,
we
can I
Well, I'd have to
suggest
go
that
back and
at
check
that-
all
at-
these cross references, I'd have to go back and look at these cross references and see if they are applicable today in the same way, because I don't know what's changed from 2009. So I'm going with what CSBA has recommended, and we can always go back and, like Michael said, a lot of times when you put the cross references there, but I think that's just from a consistency standpoint. we
Well,
did
can
this
I
on
make a
all of
suggestion?
our other ones that had multiple cross references.
I'm not even sure the cross references are right.
Yeah,
That's
so
what I'm saying.
being specific can be harmful and helpful.
Right, I mean, if this
That's
is
a
what,
lawyer
this is
perspective.
their recommended version, and I'm sure that the cross references will come up when you pull up the code or the other different things, it'll click to.
And actually they may, because there is something in Assembly that you can click
I mean,
on,
you can
like
chat,
for like
but-
the annotations or something, there's.
I mean,
Can I
we
make a
have-
Like
suggestion?
on all the other ones that had multiple cross references, and that didn't bother you.
Yeah, I can look
Yes.
that up and see.
I would like to suggest that maybe after each one that has a cross-reference, if it's correct, put in the cross-reference on the new one, for example, number 7, naming of schools and individuals, and at the back, behind it, cross-reference the page that would be the one that would be later on.
Well, you have to go look up all those cross references.
Yeah, we could do that now.
What?
Raphael, have
Well-
you cross-checked the cross-references?
Yeah, I cross-checked the ones that were on the left,
You did?
but, yeah, but I do think that, and I'm going to the manual, so this thing's kind of slow.
Right, we haven't done
I do
seven.
think at the bottom,
We could
Yeah,
footnote it,
Footnote.
like if
so
that's,
if you look at the bottom, it does show like ed code. It does
Uh-huh.
show some references to ed code
Right,
at the bottom,
Right.
like just as standard CSBA, not CSBA, Assembly kind of layout, will
Mhm.
have some of that information there. So, where they can click on, some of them, if like it has a link to it.
is your purpose to make it more friendly, so that if somebody is looking at the 7,000 and then I'm just trying to
It was
understand what
just-
your intention.
It was just because it's like, kind of like the initial, I thought it would be good to leave it on there.
Mhm.
I don't really have a strong say for leaving it or taking it out. It's just,
It
I
doesn't-
mean, I didn't see really many changes other than the cross references.
Right, I didn't either, in most of these. quite frankly.
There are, yeah, it's pretty black and white and.
Yeah.
all right, well, I don't wanna get hung up on this,
Either way.
there's support for moving to the new version,
To
so.
the right.
So if we decide to change it later on after everything else, after the dust settles, we can go back and look at
That's fine,
Okay,
I mean, I'm fine leaving. these two.
All right, 7110.
No.
No change.
Okay. So we're gonna use the new version.
I would go right or left, they're the same except for the
Again, it would
cross
be the
reference.
right side.
I've got the first where you keep the HUSD.
Yes, because later on, we talk a little bit more about, facilities master plans, and so that's why,
Okay,
You want to keep the left.
yes.
okay, so let's.
Wait, now we're
let's-
keeping the left?
Okay, since Raphael did the all in the groundwork, let's stick with the left. Going forward on this 7.
Okay.
Okay.
how about in the last one?
So starting over, the first 2 are the left version.
Yeah.
And we're on the 3rd one, right?
Well, we just did 2 of them, so now we're moving to 7111.
Right.
Did
the
you just
711
suggest going to the right side now?
to the left,
Left.
with
Adopt
cross
the left.
reference.
To the left.
Exactly the same with cross reference, so it's the one on the left.
Right, not the draft.
Not this one then.
So we're going Raphael's recommendation. See, the
Yeah.
thing I wanted to say is if we readopt these, even though we haven't changed them, does the date change that we've readopted them, or do we just leave it?
I think it's you could do that you revised it on a certain
We
date.
definitely.
I think
Okay.
you should definitely put it in the.
Yeah, that's what I wanna make sure we get
The
that.
record that we looked at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one is, there is no previous one, this is a new one, which is
711.
7111.
I believe it was new.
Okay, so that one, we are recommending to keep that one.
Keep CSBA. Any comments or questions on that?
No.
Okay,
Everyone is good with 7111?
everybody said. All
So
right.
for 7131, I'm asking to keep the one on the right with just a slight edit where instead of governing board, it's Board of Education.
Okay,
So now we're going with the one on the right.
Yes,
okay.
so, yeah,
Keep.
71 31.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it, thank you.
7140.
Probably I'm
I have a
curious of
question.
why, because they're exactly, as far as when I read them, they were pretty much exactly the same. So what did I miss?
Well, for this one, I just, because, I mean, I just thought, you know, in the beginning, when you're going for the, like, when you're going to the 7,000 policies, you're looking at facilities master plan, all of those cross references were like really useful. On this one, I don't think they're as useful, at least when I'm looking at it. So I felt like just keep the right.
Okay.
And since we are keeping the right on the first one, then it just makes sense to keep that one.
Well, I thought we're keeping the left on the first one.
Oh, we are keeping the
Yeah.
left?
You remember the
Yeah, I
recommendation?
saw
Unless it's on, okay.
Okay.
So
Alright, then
actually,
we'll
now
keep
that
the-
makes sense, if we're keeping the left on the first
No,
one, like a
first
table
one
of
was the right.
contents, then it makes sense to then go more minimal inside
Yeah,
the rest.
Alright,
so,
Okay.
so your recommendation is still pink,
yes.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
7140. Any questions?
I'd just like to point out that the two new sentences are in there, that's why you changed, that's all I'm pointing out.
Yeah, and that was CSBA additions.
Yes, this is
Yeah.
CSBA additions. The only edit I made was change governing board to Board of Education
Right.
for consistency.
So
Yeah,
we're,
but I'm
This
just
is
saying
egg
that,
code,
so
it's
we're
based-
going pink on that one.
Yes.
Good.
I'm good with that.
7150.
Oh, wait a minute,
Pink is good for me.
I have a question on that, you have a question on that?
How much?
7150,
No, I do not.
can I ask why? First of all, a question, this is the one about is this the one that has agricultural land, which is the one that,
Yes, this is the one that has that.
why do we don't have any agricultural land, I don't understand that.
It's just
You're
part
right.
of like the typical ed code, and so we just wanna make sure we have something that references that, just in case something
Might
ever
get
does.
some.
become-
And,
we get a
and we
herd of
identified
cows.
Rochelle, if it's an egg code item, we
Yes.
can't change the wording on it. So
Okay,
it just
all right,
stays
that's all
in
I wanna
as
know
is.
then, okay, I just wondered why we had to be concerned about it. Agricultural land, we don't
Ag
have it.
program
But we
going.
could acquire land in the future
Right.
potentially, and then there's no,
Right, But you can't
where
take
you
it
gonna
out,
put it?
you
In
can't
Beverly
take it
Hills.
out because it's egg code right now.
All right, I have, okay,
Okay. 7160.
remove,
I'm
Removed.
good.
Everybody good with that?
Oh,
Making sure you're on the
Yes,
purple
I'm good
page.
with that.
Judy,
We
purple
don't have
page.
Keeping
That.
I'm good with the room.
You're good with removing this one, charter schools?
Yeah, I suggest, I mean, that one's the recommended one, but we don't have any charter school facilities, so
that's why put
I don't wanna
the
invite charter
agricultural land.
schools.
Exactly, that's why I knew you were taking it out.
If we ever do, we gotta make sure we come back to it.
Won't be hard to
Something
find.
never does happen.
We don't have these.
Wait, say, I'll be right behind.
It won't be hard to
Oh.
find. Um,
Okay, 7210.
Okay,
I'm good with pink.
I have a question, when you're talking about copy, this number 6, using lease revenues for capital outlay purposes. Is that what we're talking about in terms of for the future, maybe possibly getting money for finishing the construction program? Is that the same as capital outlay purposes?
Yeah, to a certain extent, it's a possibility. It opens up that possibility for funding alternatives. So it gives you a different, quite a bit of different funding alternatives, like doing developer fees, entering into a lease, generating revenues. And if you do generate some lease revenues, it's allowing you to use that lease revenue for capital outlay purposes.
Question on this one. I noticed that financing, I mean, it's called up above, but in 1 through 6, it doesn't clearly say obtain a loan.
Yes.
So does it have to be lease revenue based?
It doesn't have to be lease revenue based, but it's just, those are more funding side alternatives. I suppose we could put loan, like, in there, but it's typically, it's a different type of, it would probably be in a different section, like to be able to enter, when we are able to enter into loans and, like the certificate of participation.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I just don't want to be limited I don't want to be limited to only a COP moving forward, given our recent conversations.
And that's why, like, at the top there, it says these funding alternatives may include but not be limited.
Yes, I
So we
get
can
it.
look for more, but I think what this board policy is saying is like, we are supposed to look for other types of funding sources.
Thank you.
Do we have to keep the Belarus #2? That has to stay in here, I guess.
It's just
It
because
doesn't
it's government
define it.
code, but we don't have that.
Right,
We can remove it. We can definitely remove
but it is listed under government code.
Isn't that Clean Air Act, Melanie?
Are you looking at #2 on there?
It's a supplemental tax for
Yeah.
new developments.
Yeah, we don't have,
Yeah, we don't
have
we
that.
don't have those.
so, I mean, it doesn't hurt us
We
to
can
leave
remove
it.
it.
These are just alternatives, so it's better to
Remember,
have
we said
everything.
we
I
were
would
gonna
just
try
leave
to make a limited amount of changes so that in the future, if they have to go back, it's not like we have to then.
It won't harm you if you
If
keep.
the less changes that, unless it's absolutely necessary, try not to make changes that we don't need to.
Yeah, we also try to clean things up to have verbiage that's just unrelated to the
Right.
district.
And just reminding us of how we were thinking about it previously.
Okay, so we're going with the pink on it.
Yes.
7211. Everybody on the pink?
Yeah.
Everybody's good? Okay. 7211 developer fees.
So for this one, it's just very similar. I'm just recommending we keep the pink.
So you're recommending we keep the pink copy?
Yes.
Any questions on that one?
I have a question. Hold on, let me see here.
Yeah, the Ed code
Oh,
Exists.
is for development fees, you know, that they chime in on development fees. It short strips a lot of school districts' potential income into other areas.
I agree.
Yeah,
I'm
you had
okay
any
with
question?
it.
You okay?
No, I thought I had a question on this one.
All right, 7212.
I have a question about that, that if you're planning to leave the possibility of developing a committee, should you not keep the districts, keep that as a part of it then, or is that?
Which one? The
Melrose?
Melrose?
7212, Melrose
It's not
districts.
part of our,
We're not keeping, we're deleting it, but also going back to what Noah was talking about a minute ago. Was it number
Right.
2?
Right, on the finance.
Why would you keep it there and not, if you were eliminating it here?
I mean, we could, like I said, we could remove it, because, I mean, you would have to inform the community, the CFD, and right now it's not part of our board policy, the CFD or Melrose.
Right.
So,
It's also not part of our city.
Yeah.
It has
So
to-
all I'm
it has
saying
to
is
be-
that
that's
it
why
has to be part of
removing,
your city to be. part
That's
of your
what I'm
policy, we
recommending.
don't have it.
I don't know, it's up-
to remove this whole thing, because you don't even have it, and so CSBA is recommending it, but
We can always, if for any reason, somebody gets a giant tract of land in Beverly Hills and decides to build a new housing development, we can always put it back in.
Yeah.
So we can take it out and simplify our
so
policy.
should we go back to the other one and just take out the Melrose?
that's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that,
Consistent?
yeah, I'm fine with that.
we don't mention it at all.
That's what I'm saying.
Fine.
It was like there was a list of 6.
Yeah.
I think it was number 2 on the next one. Was it number 2? Yeah, number 2
Number
and
2 and
7210.
Okay. So any other questions on the purple pages?
No.
Okay, 7213,
Shouldn't this be purple? How did I?
No, we're deleting purple. 7213, I have a question somewhere. Oh,
I mean, this is a
this
new
this
policy,
is a new
right?
policy.
So
Okay.
it should be whatever.
should you remove the word governing then, where we didn't
It's a
consistently
blue
remove,
policy.
just the board
Right.
desires.
Yeah, so this one, we don't have it in our
Right,
board
so this
policy.
really is blue.
So, but you
Yeah.
put in the governing board and then all the rest of the policies, we crossed out the word governing. Just to be consistent.
Yeah, so this one, I'm sorry, this one should have said remove as well, it should have been purple, 7213.
It is a remove,
Yeah, it's a,
Oh, this one's a remove.
yes,
Oh,
that's what my question.
sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
annotate that, that's a remove.
What did you say?
it's a remove,
It's a remove.
7213 is a remove. It should
Oh,
be
we're
purple.
removing it
Yeah,
all
that's-
together, it should be
that's-
purple?
That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Because he picks it up in 7214.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, sorry about that, I should.
Sure.
We love working with policy.
Definitely.
It's a rainbow of fun.
All right.
Okay, any questions on 7214?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
It says bonds requiring 55% approval by the local voters. And then later on, you say something about 66 2/3. And I'm not sure that this is clear, or maybe it's just me as to when it's, but it's, I think I brought this up.
You did.
It's that all the board members have to vote for it, and then you have 55%. If the board votes 3-2, then you need 66 2/3%. I'm not sure that this is clear in that. That's all I was trying to say. You all understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with
I
you.
know what you're saying.
Actually, I agree with you, Rochelle, because I was looking for the same language. Yeah.
I thought it said if
Um,
2/3 of the board agrees.
No, it says. in the
Then you
beginning,
need,
bonds
if that's the
requiring
case, then you
55%
need
approval
66
by local voters.
2/3%.
Yeah, but then in the body, it says if 2/3 of the board
It does,
agrees
yeah.
to such election, the board shall vote to adopt.
So bond requiring, exactly, in that first paragraph, like towards the middle, it says if 2/3 of the board agrees to such an election, the board shall vote to adopt a resolution to incur bond indebtedness if approved by a 55% majority of the voters. So it does have that language in there for that one.
Right.
Which one?
Now,
How does that pertain to our
Right
five?
here, 2/3 of the board agrees.
so you would have to have,
But it's.
55% is
Is it
3.
supposed to be unanimous?
so it's 2/3 of the board, so
Right.
the actual, so in this case, it would have to be essentially 3 board members.
Well, why do we have 66 2/3% in here somewhere else?
That's voters, I think.
That's how the voters have.
Yeah, that's
Right.
Yeah, but that
But
says.
what triggers
Approved by
that?
55% majority of the
That's
voters.
the question.
Raphael, what triggers the 66% of the voters?
Whether you have.
There used to, I remember we had a bond
The
issue,
66% is
and it
when,
didn't pass because the board was not unanimous.
so the 60 is only, it just requires a board majority.
Right.
So that's kind of the difference, so
But
when it's
isn't
only,
that the same thing as
No, it's based on topic, right? So the items on the first page, which are listed, those are topics that if the board
Yes.
approves by 2/3 vote, would require only a 55% of local voters. Then the issues that are listed on page 27, items 1-10, again, if 2/3 of the board agrees,
Right, if you only have 2/3.
yeah, then those items would have a higher threshold of 66% of the local citizenship.
it does have to do with the topics as well. But I can get more clarification on that, but
I just think
yeah,
it's not as clear.
I think I would just like clarification on this.
okay,
And one thing I
If
want,
3, I'm sorry, if 3 board members vote for it only, if 3 board members vote for it only, it's gonna need 66% of the public. If 4 or 5 board members vote for it, it needs 55. That's what happened with Measure Y. Okay, Measure Y, we had, it was a
That's
3-2
what I-
vote, we needed 66%, we had 64, 63%, we failed. So that's why when we put it back around again, we had a 4-1 or 5-0, we only needed 55%. So that's not clear in here, and that's what Rochelle was referring to. So I just want to make sure that language is clear, because we are a board of 5, you can specify the actual numbers in the policy, so it doesn't have to be a guessing game. Okay,
yeah, let me, I will, get more clarification on that.
okay,
With, I'll check with our bond, attorney, just to make sure we have it correctly.
okay. Reference back to what happened with Measure Y, because it'll be the life lesson, in what happened when you don't have enough board votes.
Okay, I'll do that.
and to Noah's point, one inconsistency is, it could mean the same thing and it could also mean different things. For the 55%, it says if 2/3,
Right,
And
and
then-
then 55, yeah.
yeah, but then for the 66%, it says if a majority of the board,
Right.
which is,
Which
Well, the
is
majority is only
Yeah.
3.
So that's why he needs to
Yeah.
clarify.
yeah,
Okay, I'll get clarification on that. To see if we can get some better language.
but sorry, one more thing. You could be at a moment in time where there are only 4 board members.
Yeah.
And so that's why designating the specific numbers may or may not be,
Right, it should be by percentage,
Yeah.
so majority or quorum or
Well,
above 55.
in this case though, because we're only a board of 5 as opposed to 7, right? everything is
Yeah.
slightly. And some California boards have 7, so it's written to work with 5 or 7. But I would like it specific in this policy for us, how many, even if there's only 4 in attendance, it's not the amount of people who are in attendance.
It's the majority.
Yes, so you would still need the 3 votes, so.
I hear you.
Anything else on that policy?
No.
Thank you, everybody. We're making this process easy. Raphael is wide awake. We know all of this. Okay. 70.
Doing all the work we did to put
Nice.
this together.
All right, 7214.
Well, I just, going back to, the ed code on that policy on page 7.
Which one, Mary?
Are we going back to?
Said, subject to limits specified, bonds should be sold to raise money
Past
for
policy.
any of the following purposes.
I'm sorry, where are you?
Page
She's on page back in
27,
the other policy. She went
Oh.
backwards to the other policy.
Pink 27.
page 27.
Okay. What was the question?
So it specifies that the bonds shall be sold to raise money for any of the following purposes. And in this area, where would you define our technology and the laptop?
I believe it was because you, if I'm not mistaken, I can go back and double check, but I think you went out for a bond under the 55% approval, not the 66%. So there's 2 different ones and different rules apply
Oh, for
when you
even
do
what you can
55
use the
versus
money for.
66. Yeah, I think, and I'll get you more clarity on this, but
Okay.
55 is more Prop 39. 66 is like the older, before Prop 39, where you have to be more specific.
Got it.
Which
You're
sounded
right.
like
But the
we were talking
66 doesn't require a CBOC.
Yes, yeah, so essentially, that was the difference, but it's much harder to get the 66.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of districts, when Prop 39 came out, they've gone with the 55.
Right.
What about
And in the 66, you had to, you, whatever you listed, you had to only use the
Yes.
funds for those things,
It was a lot more specific.
right?
And then how about the word shall? Because that's an affirmative obligation. Would it be better to be could or can be?
No, it has to be based on ed code.
It's that code.
Got it.
It has to be ed code, because remember, the 66 would predate the
Prop
39.
Got it.
Okay, move on to 7214, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you. Questions on that? Clearly defines that it's a 55% voting majority. Prop 39 bond requires a CBOC.
And then we have the bylaws. And, I didn't see any reasons to change the bylaws, which is in the white.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. And then the pink is just basically,
So are we taking the pink or the white, need the white, which one? We just, you just did them in pink just now, Raphael?
we would keep the existing ones,
The white,
the white ones.
the white, one, okay.
Mhm.
Why do we have the pink ones in here?
It's just what they had recommended, but it's pretty similar. I think the white one just you recently approved those.
Yeah.
I think it was,
Yeah, 2019.
yeah, so I didn't want to change it. You just approved them.
Okay.
And if we check that too, just to make sure, because
Yeah, I just wanna make, what's this, what, was there a difference between the two?
There really wasn't much of a difference, and then we would have to like, adopt, like, so with the one that we have on the left, it has like, it's very similar.
It has the cross references
The
there.
first page is identical.
Do you prefer it with the cross references?
Second page is identical.
we also just compared it to the actual document that we have for the CBOC.
Yes,
Because I know that, remember there was we finally put it in a Google Doc and that we all have it, we all have access to it. I just want to make sure that what's in the white pages here, we use this in there, correct?
Sorry.
yes, but I'll double check on that. Let me double check on that.
I mean, the white and pink look identical.
I mean, it's
Right.
old,
Yeah.
so.
I had a question on either one of them, but
Okay.
that was really about, It says powers reserved for the governing board, and then it says, like,
What,
this,
what page?
like 24 for the white version.
Okay. Sure.
So if you look at the list, of these, this area. The selection of architects, engineers, soil engineer, project manager, project manager, eco consultant, those all come to us on the agenda. Approval of the design for each bond project, including exterior materials, paint color, interior finishes.
Where are you?
I'm looking at item D on page 24 in the white of the bylaws. So I think, you know, since I've been on the board, we've never seen that for the plans for the schools. So I think that
Which part, Mary? I'm sorry, I'm 22.
approval of the,
9B?
Approval of the design.
approval of the design for each bond project, including exterior materials, paint color, interior finishes, site plan, construction methods.
So the reason that's in there is because we want to be very clear about what the oversight is for the citizens, oversight committee, like it's, we don't want them to, basically, we're saying the board reserves the right to decide all these things, not the CBS.
Right, I understand, but as a board member, I'm
Right.
saying the board has not seen these things, so I think that when we talk about the interior and the colors, we see certain things like when we're doing maintenance or operations, but we have not really looked at the plans in terms of like what those finishes look like. I know I have no idea. So if the board, if this also falls with the board, I'd like to see it at some point. Just to know.
What's your next page after 24? I
Um,
don't know if I have.
We did see those seats.
What's the power?
Yeah,
So-
That's
So
right.
typically, like, you know, you would
All that
see,
stuff has been done for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we
I
haven't seen it.
Yeah.
typically we
When
would
did you guys
bring
approve
it.
it?
Years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, they brought color boards in,
Yeah, we would
Literally
typically
years
do
ago.
I think
that.
before
So-
my time too.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe
So,
you should.
but they
look
brought
at
the chairs in, you know.
it. How long ago do you think you saw it?
Not easily, not before COVID. I mean, not since COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
Minimum 3 years ago.
Not suggesting that we choose colors, I'm just, it would be
It's just the.
good to know what those are.
You can, the architects can show you the color boards. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna double check.
So anything else on that one?
Yes.
All right, moving on to 7310. You're saying to keep the PHUSD naming rights?
Yes, well, the reason for that is because, I know that we were talking about that. I didn't wanna make a change for like the memorials or like, I'd rather keep what the board has already revised. They revised it in 2013, so I don't know if we want to change to what CSBA is recommending on that. But I think that's a good discussion to have.
Just look at it, I don't. Which item are you talking about?
7310.
But you have two of them here. You have the original keep BHUSD, and then you have another one after that in white. Sure.
I mean, on 7310, I didn't see a difference. It says this memorial.
So 7310, page 28
Mhm.
versus page 32. Yeah,
It's different.
Oh, yeah.
so there is some
Sorry.
differences on,
I-
like, the specification of the naming rights, like, it says the board may grant to any person or entity the right to name any district. In doing so, the board shall answer into a written agreement which shall specify the benefits. So all of that, I'm not sure that the board wants to go into all this.
Yeah, I see your suggestion.
I-
Burdensome.
it seems burdensome, and the board could do it anyways. So,
Right, we have the right by the existing policy.
I think, yeah, it's pretty broad, like any person, could grant any person right to name, like that could be cause quite a stir.
whereas like the number 3 on the left, it says, the board may in its sole discretion assign the right to mark and negotiate and recommend naming assignments to individuals and foundations associated with the district.
Right. That leaves it very
Which is
open
great,
for us to
which is
just
what we do with BHF.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then because we have VHF in the relationship, I'm like, you know what, I don't wanna touch this, I don't see anything earth shattering on the right side. I said,
So the continuation on page 26,
Yes.
is that just a continuation of the same policy?
Yes, it's a
Okay.
continuation, but it's on that one, again, that one I think had many changes. Yeah. So, oh, sorry, yeah, that's the regulation, thank you, Smith. The second one is the regulation, the board
Okay.
ate the air, so,
And none of this indicates anything in perpetuity, correct? Okay.
I mean, it states that it should have an end on it somewhere. I mean,
Yeah, I wanna make,
The duration for which.
I just
the
want
name-
that to the board's discretion.
so you have like item 5 there, reserve the authority to terminate the naming agreement if it determines that the grantee has occasionally prohibited acts, you have rights to terminate.
Okay.
Yeah,
But that's on the new policy.
no, that's on the old one,
It's
so,
on the old one.
on the left.
Yeah.
It's a continuation. Oh, there's a.
Probably right.
So you're saying at the bottom of page 32, Raphael is on page 28?
I don't see it.
I don't see any numbers on the other one.
So,
I will say the one on the right, it exerts a little bit more control in some ways.
Oh, you're looking up, you were on 26.
I'm
Sorry.
looking at 73.
Yeah,
No, when you
26.
said to me,
yes, it was on
you were referring
26.
to 26, I was looking at the earlier one on
Oh,
32,
okay.
which is the same language.
Yes,
So we built it in then to the regulation,
Mhm.
not to the policy.
yes.
Okay,
I kind of like the policy on the right.
And again, the only reason I said keep the district is because I know that we have special, we've done certain things, and so I don't know if you wanna go into the specific, like, it's more, there's more to do in
it
some of
unties
these,
our hands.
but we can do that, it's really up to you. Either way, I don't think it really puts the board in any sort of significant problems, and I think if you do if you stay with what you have already on the left, which you revised in 2013, you revised it for a reason, and that's the thing, I don't know what that reason was back in 2013.
Well, we weren't on the board then either, so
So,
I,
And so to change it, I don't know.
I think it's good practice to look at this one on the right and see,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying not, it's, that's why we're bringing it,
right.
but if we had to, I would just say just keep the one on the left. There's nothing that I've seen
That's a good one.
that really impacts too much if we press the change.
I think that's the one on the right.
On the right, and you're turning over to a citizens advisory committee then, on renaming.
So the next
You can
page
still do
has
that with the
more.
policy on the left, but you're forced to do it with the policy on the right.
Well, you can certainly change that part. It's only one page.
Raphael, can you explain this to me? I'm seeing on the left, 7310, bottom, it says page 28. And then when I skip over to page, a couple of pages, as Noah mentioned, page 26, it's also 7310.
That's a regulation.
It's basically how you
How you
carry out
enforce
the
it.
policy.
There's BP and AR,
It's like
board
the
policy,
administrative part of it.
Yeah.
administrative regulation.
So then it seems like the state, CSBA's kind of incorporates these, am I right?
Yeah, that's what I noticed.
The rules and the
Yeah, It's almost
administrative,
like they combine
yeah, it's a combo.
the policy and how to do it.
So if we're comparing them, we should be comparing it to include the regulations, administrative regulations, if we wanna compare apples to apples. So we actually went to town on this one.
Yeah, I find it really unusual, that, the policy does have kind of like how you would implement it. It's not typical with the rest of our policies, because that's the administrative part of how we carry it out, so it's unusual to see this format and style in the actual policy.
Right.
Page 28 needs to be reviewed in conjunction with 26, right?
So
One is
page
policy
20,
and
so
one is
page 28
regulation.
is the policy,
Yeah.
right? That's the policy, and then page 26, which is further up, which is kind of weird, you know, that one is the regulation, how you carry out the policy.
Yeah.
And in the end, the policy should come first.
Yeah.
Yes,
But what we're saying is like, it's written, you know, the CSBA one is written in a way that's
That's part of
Yeah.
the
kind of like stepping over the line a little bit.
well, that's why I said keep,
So,
Keep
Yeah,
what you have
that's-
already done. That's what I noticed.
Yeah.
We already have that stuff covered in our regulations, so
See where this
I
is
would keep the one
regulation.
on the left. I
Is
would
this
keep-
really binding?
Yes, and I don't wanna be bound.
So you're saying
mean,
keep
not by
the
this, right.
original naming of facility to the
Can you go
page
to,
28 on the white? Are you saying
if you
keep
go
page
to,
28?
Yes.
but
Yes.
30,
for 1 second, can you just go to regulation 7310 where it says naming a facility? On the right side,
Uh-huh.
and then go to the second page where it says assignment and naming rights.
Yep.
Because this is what you're proposing that we're gonna adopt, I mean, keep, right?
say that,
No, he's keeping the one on the left.
the left,
He's saying don't take this one.
Okay, it said keep.
Right,
Oh,
keep BHUSD.
not keep it. keep
sorry,
it, got it.
sorry. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, like, you keep the one on the left, and then if you're keeping that, you should probably keep your AR
but the
as well.
But the thing is that when you, on the face of it, the one on the left looks much more simple than the one on the right.
It does.
But because the one on the left is supported by a really heavy-handed set of regulations, it's not what it appears to be.
Yeah, exactly.
So then we really should, if we're keeping the one on the left, we really should go through the one on the right with a fine tooth comb, because these are gonna tie our hands in the next 2 years.
Right, I'd like to spend some time on this one
Yeah.
because I
I also have a
misunderstood
thought
the recommendation.
Okay, so for 7310,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so the recommendation was for so for 7310, keep your policy and your AR.
right,
So on the right side is what what CSBA is recommending. But just keep in mind, it gives you a lot more kind of things that you have to do before you. So for example, on the one on the right, which is CSBA one, you have to, you know, before adopting any proposed name, the board shall hold a public hearing at which members, you know, the public will be given an opportunity to provide input. Whereas in the one on the left, it doesn't spell that out in the policy.
understood. I just would like to read the regulation and before we just blindly adopt it.
Sure, that's fine.
Because the regulations are heavy, like, for example, the regulations really specify that this is gonna be very relevant in the next couple of years. If we
I
get a,
think so too,
if
if we're thinking about naming.
yeah,
Yeah,
if we
Sure.
get a
And
corporate,
how this, I'd also like to see this
So,
in
but
conjunction
if-
with the BATF.
If you look at,
plans,
if you look at
Not
the,
plans, what their
platform,
Their
the
menu.
rules are, yeah. Like, how does this relate to BATF and so that we're really clear with BATF and with our policies, how we're gonna move forward, with naming rights and what.
so you're talking about like just actually revamping the.
I'm not suggesting we need to revamp it, I'm saying we need to
make
look
sure it
at
works
this in
with-
to
conjunction
see
with
what we're
that.
gonna be abiding
like,
by.
for example, in the regulations for corporate donations and naming, there's a 10-year cap. So that's something to really consider. So that means that if somebody here in our town brings a corporate name for one of the upcoming buildings, it would limit our ability to garner support from a corporation because there would necessarily be a 10-year cap. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we
Right.
really need to go through it and we need to make, I would love to see the latest BHF deck to make sure we're not handcuffing them.
Right,
So we can bring some more information on this one.
Thank you.
Another thing I wanna bring up that is a possibility is that as we have become a much more polarized society, right? You know, there's very conservative, there's very liberal. More and more, I feel like, apart from individuals or entities, you know, nonprofit, very vocal political groups can come forward wanting a naming right. So I don't know if there's a way at all to massage it where we say, you know, government speech and this goes along with the mural conversation. Is like, to what extent are we not going to permit, or permit certain, I don't know, what would be the legal phrase for that? Political faction groups that come in and name the whole building, because,
Yeah.
you know, for every group that is in support of that,
Yeah.
there's another that isn't,
It
because
gets
we're a very
contentious.
polarized society.
For
So
sure.
Those
is there
are
a
all-
way to stipulate that if it is a political faction, we're not going to honor that, or is that?
You can, it's your board policy.
Right.
We could definitely look at
And
what you
ultimately,
would like
board
to do.
would say yes or no.
Just keep in mind that this policy, this is the other reason why I just felt like just keep it, until, I'm assuming this is gonna be looked at again. It does go over signage, and, you know, that's the other thing I know that we were looking at.
Right,
Rather than take
and that's
this
why
whole
this
thing
is,
home,
like,
I'm
I
going to
just
take
heard
just this
Judy say about how timely this is, that is very timely, because Rebecca and I are working on
policy, no.
that policy right now about, you know, the signage, the banners, the people that are donating, like,
Yeah.
we wanna make sure that we don't box ourselves in to where we don't, you know, we're not able to participate, but we wanna be really careful about who those people are.
We just have to look at
Yeah.
partisan
But you,
groups,
we really,
because
we're gonna have a dilemma there because I feel like these days, anything could be construed as
Yeah.
political. Even, for example, Chick-fil-A,
Right,
is
Or
considered
Domino's,
religious,
yeah.
they're closed on Sundays, they have very strong beliefs,
Yep.
and it's gonna be a challenge for us. for
right,
sure.
but even more exposed are some of the groups that we know are
Yes.
touch button talk.
And it would maybe be better to just shield our district from these conversations altogether.
Yeah, cause what I always worry about is, it also puts the board in a bad spot too.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that even though the board has the final decision, it's still,
It'll get ugly.
it still puts, you know, 5 elected officials in a bad spot when if there's there should be a little bit of protection before it gets to the
Right, so
board.
before we have to say no,
Yeah.
there's a caveat that, you know,
Right,
Yeah.
there's in the policy.
Yeah,
it's
in the policy, yeah.
it's just a very political
Right.
time now.
So that's why I think we should spend a little time on
And what we
this.
could do too is, let's look at, you know, without reinventing the wheel, it's in school districts and, you know, there's been a lot of case law, there's been some naming rights issues, sponsorships. Let's look at to see what some of those are, because even in our own assembly system is, people have rewritten some of these laws in policies. So let's see what some other school districts have done. And
Great,
Okay,
thank
so
you,
for now, we'll hold on to 7310,
Yes,
and we'll bring it back to you.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
so much.
I'll get it back on our agenda, we'll
so, and,
come with all notes and everything, but everything else stands as we discussed.
right, so just to reiterate, it's, to look at what you just said, Michael, and also look at how this works in relation to what is already in place for BATF, our
Yeah.
policy for BATF, because I haven't seen that, what policies guide them.
So just to,
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Just
do
to
they have they must have like a bylaws.
they do.
So I, like, in relation to their bylaws, I'd like to see how this works within this relation. to
I'll
that.
get a copy of those.
And,
Sure.
and their sponsorship deck. So, because for example, if, let's say they are, and they don't know, they're just doing their best, but let's say they are looking at a corporate sponsorship and promising 15 years, well, the pre-existing caps it out at 10 years.
Right.
So it's for us to provide them that oversight.
It does say
Well, I mean-
or per the naming agreement approved by the board, so
Yes.
it's 10 years
I mean, I think
recommendation,
Yeah.
And
but
they're
it's
not
not a
doing,
cap.
they're not doing any corporations yet.
Right, I don't think we need to do their deck, I just think we need to look at the policy.
Just to know
that
what they're-
informs how they do the deck, so that then they can adjust
It's all,
accordingly.
everything's working together.
If it needs to be adjusted, it may all be fine and aligned,
Yeah.
and to Raphael's first recommendation, which is to keep it, it may be best to keep it, but I just, before we do, because it's been a while since that was done.
Yeah.
And we have new buildings and new naming opportunities, I'd like to look at this policy in relation to the BATF policy, to make sure it's aligned and it's current to what we think it should be.
So let's do this, since we're giving ourselves homework on this,
Mhm.
let's bring this back. We can bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay.
I'll touch base with BHF though to get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just we'll get a clearer picture of it.
Uh-huh.
so,
Or what I might do is do a quick study session before the next close, and we'll tackle it there, so we can bring BHF into here, room with us, and we can all hack this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it might be good to hear from BATF,
That's
what
Yeah.
What would be
they
helpful?
think
Yeah, I think that would be really
Okay.
good.
what issues they're.
And then what we might be able to do is have the study session and agendize it and open, so then we give you a chance.
So,
you.
so then maybe also give BATF the policies that we are considering.
Right,
Yes.
so we'll work on that, we'll get that. So I'm hearing essentially, we're good with pretty much everything except for 7310 and the board wants some clarification on the language for
Bond.
66 versus 50.
Yes, yes.
And also double check on the CVOCs adopted with, ARs as well.
Yes,
Okay,
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you
for
very
the
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you
For
very
your
much.
work on this.
And thanks to, I want to thank Shamia who
Thanks,
put all of
Shamia.
this together.
Thank you,
Thank
Shamia.